Well, welcome everybody. It is Bobby Harvey. It is July 15th, 2023. It's a Saturday evening, and we are starting another live stream out tonight in the kind of hazy, smoky situation here over in Albia, Iowa. I decided to start a live stream over here. I had a comment on the last live stream. Someone asked me if I would do a live stream over at Wabtec in Albia. So I thought that was a good idea, and so that's where we're going to start today's live stream. It is a pretty decent evening, but like I said, there is kind of the sky is kind of hazy, as you might notice, kind of smoky, and I think it's because of those Canadian wildfires. I think the smoke is starting to waft back down through here, back into the U.S. I didn't know that was going to happen again, but I looked at the weather, and sure enough, the air quality has gone down significantly. It's not quite as bad as it was a couple weeks ago, but it's still not good for those who are sensitive to the smokier air. So we're looking north right now. This is the road that goes right next to Wabtec. We're going to get out and do kind of a brief walkthrough down here along the tracks here so we can see what's sitting out at Wabtec. Now, this is what used to be Relco Locomotives here in Albia. This is a locomotive facility. It's where they overhaul locomotives, repair locomotives, and they even manufacture some of their own locomotives. And speaking of that, there are some very interesting locomotives out here. I think there are new creations of Wabtec, and we'll zoom in on them here in just a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the phone off of the stand here, and we'll go out and take a look at the equipment that they have out here in front of the facility. And this opened as Relco in 2005, I'm pretty sure. And Wabtec purchased Relco a few years back. And today, Wabtec not only owns Relco, but they also took over all of GE's transportation services on the rail side. So everything that was made by GE is now being made by Wabtec. So they might actually see some more activity down here now that they've taken over that side of things. But as far as I know, this is still a overhaul, manufacturing, overhauls, wreck rebuilds, repainting, and they do a little of their own building locomotives, but not much. So we're going to go ahead and get out and see what we can see here. There are a few interesting things out here, so take a quick look. Now, we're going to go ahead and zoom in on these interesting locomotives down here, and I hope that we get a good picture of them. Of course, we're a ways away, so we won't be able to see them in very good quality, but as you can see, there is a pair of new Norfolk Southern. They look like work locomotives. They look very similar to those ones that Relco was cranking out for Union Pacific that they had on those weed sprayer trains. They look very similar in design to those, but it's the first I've ever seen of them, and there's a pair of them right down there. It'd be neat if they pushed them up here really close in the future, but there they are. Those are some pretty interesting looking work locomotives, and I don't know if they're going to be making a whole train set like they did for Union Pacific or not, but they also made some of those engines for Canadian Pacific too. So they must be pretty successful designs. They're getting a lot of some more customers for those engines. And those are engines that they fabricate and they make in shop right here, I'm pretty sure. They make them out of older engines, the base and the frame from older locomotives, and then they just pretty much build everything new from the frame up. And from the looks of it, it almost looks like those frames and the trucks are off of a GE locomotive. You can kind of tell by the fuel tank design, it almost looks like it's made out of a GE engine. I'm not sure, but just from the fuel tank from here, it almost looks like those are the high adhesion trucks that you would see on a Dash 9. I can't really tell from this far away, but speaking of other GE locomotives, you can see right behind those new engines, that is an old Amtrak P40 that looks like it's been pretty much gutted, and the nose cone is off, and it's on little freight car trucks. And I don't know if they're rebuilding that engine for somebody else, or if they're using it for parts for something else. There have been some of those old P40s hanging around here for quite a while. They were purchased from Amtrak from, I think they went to Larry's Truck and Electric, LTEX. And so I don't know if they've sold them to somebody else and Wabtec is overhauling them into something new or what the deal is. But yeah, that's interesting. So there's those two, those three rather. So now we're gonna zoom out the rest of the way here and show you what else is going on right here. This is an old CSX-840CW, which is pretty neat to see. You don't see very many of those engines around here anymore. It is pretty quiet out here tonight, which is nice. And right before I started the live stream, there was kind of a mass exodus from Wabtec. It must be a shift change. There are a lot of people leaving, people that work down in there. I'm gonna extend this thing out just a little bit so I can get a little more leverage here. There we go. It's an old CSX-840CW, 7907. The road number hasn't changed. And we're gonna walk down here a little ways and see some other stuff really quick. Unfortunately, there's not as much out in front of the facility as there is at some times, but still, it's pretty neat to see just anything they've got here, because it's usually the old stuff, which you don't see very much anymore. And because I've always liked these Dash 8s, it's pretty neat to see. Zoom up again and get another view of those new Norfolk Southern work engines. Pretty cool. And it looks like those just rolled out of the plant not too long ago. Got a comment from Iowa Rails. He said that those were made off of the cores of Dash 9. So I was correct on my observation there, that they looked like Dash 9 trucks and frames. So it'd be interesting to see those close up when they get them completely done. Then we've got what appears to be a CSX-840C. We'll come over here and take a quick look at it. So we're down at Wabtec here in Albia, starting out the live stream tonight. We'll talk more about some other trains that we might actually be seeing in motion here shortly. It's an old CSX-840C and then a former BNSF-944CW in front of it. A lot of those Dash 9s, BNSF did not renew the lease on. They went back to the leaser, which would have been GE, and then GE has turned them into lease locomotives. And some of the ones that BNSF gave the lease up on went to Kansas City Southern. So you'll see a few of these orange BNSF locomotives with Kansas City Southern reporting marks and logos on them, which is kind of weird looking, but it's something different. I've actually seen a couple of them in Ottumwa. Haven't gotten any video of them yet, but I have seen them. There's obviously, as you can see, there's cameras there and gates. I mean, you can't get really close to any of this stuff. Pretty much the dividing line, at least for me anyways, do not cross the Iowa Southern tracks, because that's, you know, kind of go on to Wabtec property after that. So, now there are a few more engines down here. We'll try and zoom up on some of them. And we might kind of walk along the Iowa Southern tracks to see them here, kind of on one side. Try and not walk into the property, but there's the Wabtec sign for the facility. And sometime, if I have time during the week, I can come down here and see the Iowa Southern in operation. I've gotten them many times over the past several years. There's a video up right now on my YouTube channel that I did of the Iowa Southern from Albia all the way to Centerville. And I've gotten a lot more footage since then that I haven't done anything with, that I will do something with in the future. Now, Iowa Trains said that there was a Dash 8 with B&O stickers on it here last weekend. Okay. Now we're gonna walk just a little ways further here and get another very brief overview of what we can see right here. And this is a pretty good summary of what there is that we can see from the tracks. This is the Iowa Southern main line in front of us. Well, main line, as you can see. As much as you can say main line for a short line railroad, but this was at one time the Wabash main line to Des Moines, and then it became Norfolk Southern. Well, then it became Norfolk and Western, and then Norfolk Southern. And Norfolk Southern had the line, and they were running trains on this line until 1993. And the last regular trains on this line were in 1993 with Norfolk Southern. And then the line was purchased by the Appanoose County Community Railroad in 1998, I think, is when they purchased this stretch of line, when Norfolk Southern formerly ended service on the line from Albia all the way to Moberly, Missouri. So the APNC bought this line, and then everything from Moulton Junction all the way to Moberly, Missouri was abandoned. But the portion from Moulton Junction to here, and then the rest of the way up to Des Moines, still exists. Albia to Des Moines is now BNSF, and some of it is still owned by Norfolk Southern, but it's mainly BNSF's line. And then this portion is owned by the Iowa Southern, which took over the APNC in late 2016. So there's that CSX-8 that we saw earlier, and there's the -840C right here. And then we've got a BNSF-9, and there's another look at those new Norfolk Southern work locomotives. And like I said, it's we can zoom in a little bit, but it gets pretty grainy and wobbly. Can't really see them very well, but maybe if I keep coming over here when I do the live streams, maybe they'll have them out in front of the shop eventually. Maybe I can catch them before the Iowa Southern takes them away. And there are a couple more BNSF-9s, it looks like, down there. Now, over here, we've got a couple of more interesting items. Right in front of us there is an old, it actually is an old, I think it's an FP45 that came in here a couple years ago that, I don't remember who bought that engine, but, and interestingly, it is lettered for Wabtec. And that was, of course, years before Wabtec purchased GE or this facility. But that engine, I actually got some pretty good pictures of that engine years ago when it first showed up down here. And they're supposed to be overhauling it and doing something with it. Now that engine behind it is an old DM&E or IC&E locomotive, an SD40-2. Almost looks like it has flared radiators though, so it might be something else. And then we've got a couple more CSX engines back there and a bunch more of the old BNSF-9s. Some of those are still owned by BNSF, it looks like. A few of them aren't. As you can see, the BNSF letters are painted over them. And then we've got a Norfolk Southern, looks like a standard cab -8 in there. But this is just the tip of the iceberg here at Wabtec. There are so many more locomotives. There are 4 or 5 really long staging tracks right behind where these engines are, going all the way back behind that building there. So I think the building right in front of us there is the paint shop. That's where they do a lot of the repainting work for these engines. Yes. Okay, Iowa Trains. I wondered if that's what that was. That old DM&E engine is that old MK500. Now let's see. The MK50-3. The former DM&E 5000, which is a one-of-a-kind kind of Frankenstein kind of locomotive that was tested on the DM&E, and I don't think it really worked out for them very well. And then it went into to a lease fleet, and it's wound up here. I've never seen that engine before, but there it is. I knew the flared radiators were kind of a giveaway that it was something else, but I guess I kind of forgot that engine even still existed. But there it is. So look it up, DM&E 5000. You'll get some really good pictures of that engine. It is an old, it's a wide cab engine, which is the only one on DM&E's roster that was a wide cab. I'm pretty sure it was an MPI Boise, which became Wabtec. It was kind of a variant on their MK5000C locomotives, which tested on Southern Pacific for several years and then went into their lease fleet. And then a lot of those engines were repowered as I think they're MK5000-3s now. And a lot of them went to the Utah Railway. And then, of course, they became part of the Genesee and Wyoming family. And a lot of them, I think there's some of them down on the Kyle Railroad now and scattered about. So a lot of those still exist, but they're pretty much, I think they're pretty much SD50s with the different cab on them now because they've been totally repowered. They don't have their original engines or anything. I don't really know the complete history on that engine right off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. The old DM&E 5000 that's in front of us there. But yeah, that's interesting that engine's here. I wonder what they're going to do with it. Interesting to see. And this is one of the neat things about coming down here to Relco is you see all these old engines, and interesting to figure out what their stories are, why they're here, and what's going to happen to them. Most of these engines will be refurbished, sent out to other railroads, or just repaired, repainted. Some of them don't need repaints just yet. They might just get some work on them mechanically and send them out again. And some of them might be completely transformed into something else. It's just neat to see. And when the Iowa Southern is running, they will pick up or drop off engines coming or going. And you get to see them come in and go out. So it's just a really neat facility. So if you're ever in the Albia area, just come drop by and check out what they've got sitting out here. And like I said, usually there's a lot more sitting out here. I mean, they will sometimes have engines parked way over here. It's kind of a Y. There is a leg of the Y that comes out to the Iowa Southern from the north, which is where we're looking now. And then it comes out here and branches off into a bunch of tracks down there, including the ones where all those BNSF engines are. And then go into the main shop building directly in front of us there. And then there's another leg to the Y that comes out this way and connects up with the Iowa Southern to the south. So it's very easy for the Iowa Southern to pick up or drop off engines, and they will deliver engines either up to the interchange with BNSF, which is to the north, or they will deliver engines down to Moravia and interchange them with the CPKC, just whichever is more convenient for getting the engines shipped out or brought in. And I've seen Iowa Southern trains delivering engines from both interchanges. And sometimes, depending on if there are new or recently overhauled engines, here being taken out on the Iowa Southern. Sometimes Iowa Southern will use those engines to bring them out and maybe do some switching and then hook up their own locomotives and finish their work. So pretty interesting to see them working out here. So yeah, sometime I should come out here during the week when the Iowa Southern is running. They run pretty much on an as-needed basis, Monday through Friday. They run as needed. I mean, sometimes they don't. I don't know if they actually run up here every day of the week, weekdays, but I do know that it's on an as-needed basis. I've seen them running pretty much every day of the week, sometime or another. Thursday seems to be a really busy day for them, and at least it did. I used to have really good luck getting them on Thursdays, but I have gotten them on pretty much any day of the week. They do work on Mondays, Tuesdays, so I'm pretty sure it's every day. It's every weekday, except it's an as-needed thing from what I can gather. And also from my observations, they seem to begin their work very early in the morning, sometimes 8 o'clock, 8:30, from wherever they staged the train the night before or the weekend before. And they do their work, and they're pretty much done when they're done. And sometimes that'll be a complete, 8 to 5, 8 to 4. Other times it'll be earlier than that. But it's for a short line. I mean, once you figure out how they operate, it's pretty active, and it's pretty fun to watch. So sometime we should do a live stream of just the Iowa Southern and see what we can see. But yeah, this is Wabtec Locomotives. And so before we get going to seeing some actual trains on the move, we're going to go to another place in Albia where we might see some goodies. It's the interchange track up with BNSF back in town. And Iowa Trains is just commenting the Great Northern 325 was sitting in front of the paint shop last weekend. I think that is the engine that was down here, that has been down here for a while. And I think it might have gone on now. I did get a picture of it. I'm pretty sure it was what I got a picture of. The old SD45 that was repainted into Great Northern paint. It was originally, or no, it wasn't an SD45. It was an SDP45 or an SDP40 that was in Burlington Northern colors. It was owned by, or it still is owned by, a museum in Minnesota. And they brought it down here to be repainted in its original Great Northern colors. And Wabtec did that work right here. And I got some pictures of it a few weeks ago, sitting out here. In fact, the thumbnail image on this live stream, if you guys saw it, was a picture of a CSX, an old CSX-8, kind of like the one we see there. And right on the right side of that picture, which you don't see in the thumbnail image, was that Great Northern engine. That was a few weeks ago. So I don't know if it's still here or not. But yeah, it's just neat to come down here and see what you can see. And the last time I was here, they also had some Norfolk Southern locomotives out here, including an SD40-2. Of course, it appears that those are gone now. But yeah, this is Wabtec Locomotives here in Albia, and this is where we started our stream tonight. So here's what we're going to do. Amtrak is on time for the most part, and they're probably getting close to Ottumwa now. So obviously we're not going to get them in Ottumwa. We're going to get them either here, or we're going to get them further down the line as we get back towards Ottumwa. So we'll strategize here once we get back to the car, figure out what we're doing. Definitely looks like this engine is getting some work done on it. Amtrak left Ottumwa almost 10 minutes ago. Ooh, boy. Well, and they are running right on time. So what we're going to do is we are going to head back into town and see if we can catch Amtrak. Hopefully we don't miss them. Didn't realize it was that late already. That's okay. We'll get Amtrak here, and we will continue on from there. Westbound feed train is going past the Ottumwa camera right now. Okay, well, that, of course, is going to Cargill, so we may not get that train before we get out of Albia, but we'll see. All right. So if Amtrak left Ottumwa, minutes ago, they're probably not very far away from here, maybe 10, 15 minutes. So we better get into position. Yes, Kirk, might be a busy night. We'll see. I don't know if it'll be as successful as our last live stream. If any of you watching now were watching then, really good live stream last time. We got 6 trains in Ottumwa, and the last train was the BNSF local, which featured the Santa Fe locomotives, the Santa Fe Bluebonnet locomotives, the SD40-2 and the GP50, or GP60, I think it was. I think it was a GP60. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that's our first little look at Wabtec here in Albia. And like I said, there are a lot more engines back there on those tracks, those staging tracks, which you really can't see because they're so far away. You'd have to have a really good camera with a really long lens to get any decent pictures of them. And as you can see right up there in the camera, there's the sun in the upper left-hand corner of the screen right now. And you can see it's so... it's kind of an orange ball, and that's because there's so much hazy smoke in the air again from, I'm guessing, the Canadian wildfires. The smoke from those wildfires are sweeping back in. So this is our first look at Albia on the live stream. We just left Wabtec, and we're heading up Highway 5, going towards our next location that we're going to check out here in town. And since Amtrak's on the way, we'll just kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and hopefully get Amtrak there too, and then go on from there. So we're hitting the city limits right now, officially. And up ahead, we're going to come up to the intersection of Highway 5 and US Highway 34, which is what we traveled on to get over here earlier. Just to our right is the Iowa Southern Railroad tracks, the old Wabash. And this is a 4-way stop right here. It's a little interesting. Sometimes people don't really know how to navigate it. As I'm talking, there's somebody on my left side right now. I really don't know what they're doing. That Amtrak might be around Avery now. Well, that means they're getting pretty close, but so are we. So I'll kind of hightail it down there. Huh. Got some big cranes over here to our left. Well, hopefully we don't miss them. Trying to think of the quickest place to get up there to them. So Avery is not very far away from Albia. I don't know. It's going to be tight. I don't know if we can get there in time or not. Amtrak passed Avery 2 minutes ago. Well, we may or may not get Amtrak. Of course, I'm, running on the idea that Amtrak's going to be late, and then, I'd have plenty of time to do all this other stuff first, and then Amtrak's right on time, and you're not able to do it quite the way you originally thought, but that's okay. We'll just play it by ear like we usually do. This is the Albia Square, the east side of the Albia Square. Albia, of course, is the county seat of Monroe County, which is the county directly west of Wapello County, where Ottumwa is. Now, straight ahead of us is one of the passages of BNSF's Ottumwa subdivision. I say one because the track actually splits here in town. Main 1 goes through just directly north of downtown, where we just saw. Main 2 goes south of town, kind of underneath a cut, kind of along the southern edge of downtown. All right, now we're at 3rd Street. Uh-oh. All right. Well, the gates just went up, so I'm guessing that Amtrak literally just went by. Well, that stinks. Oh well. Let's see if we can get a... Well... Yep. Yep, there they go. I can see the cars down there. Well, poop. Missed it by that much. Okay, well, that's kind of a slight bummer, but... And, is there anything up here on the interchange track? A gondola. Well, we'll go down there and show you guys it anyways. Now, this is kind of our reconnaissance mission for live streams in Albia. Let's kind of show you guys everything, and then we'll come over and make sure we have a little more time to do other stuff. So hopefully we end up getting any moving trains tonight. We might head back over towards the Cargill Spur and see if we can get that feed train going in. We're gonna loop back around here and go back down towards the high school. Yeah, Brian, you're right. It's seen Amtrak plenty of times. Now, there were a few slight differences in the train from what I saw on the Galesburg rail cam. It wasn't anything too spectacular. As you guys may know, Amtrak hasn't been able to Y the trains either in Chicago or Oakland. I'm pretty sure it's Chicago. And so they're literally just swapping the engines from one end to the other. And the transition sleeper, really unusual looking. The transition sleeper, which is usually right behind the baggage car on the front of the train, is on the back of the train. And so that's how it was tonight, from what I saw on the Galesburg rail cam anyways. And then also tonight, there was no sightseer lounge car on the train. There were two dining cars. Guessing one of those was one of the so-called cross-country cafe diner lounge cars. Now, occasionally that happens when there aren't any sightseer lounge cars available. They will tack one of those diner lounges on there, and that will sub for a lounge car. I've never been on an Amtrak long-distance train that has a diner lounge on it instead of a lounge car. I'd be pretty bummed if I was on the Zephyr and one of those was on the train instead, because you want those sightseer lounge cars to see the scenery up over the Rocky Mountains and the Sierra Nevadas. You'd still be able to see it from one of the other lounge cars. You just wouldn't have the big panorama windows. And obviously on those diner lounges, there's no lower level that's accessible for the passengers. It's just the upper level. Basically, it's a refurbished dining car that Amtrak has turned into a lounge car where one end is dining and the other end is lounge seating. And the idea, I think, originally was Amtrak was going to equip some of the shorter trains, or the shorter distance trains, with a diner lounge car instead of a dining car and a lounge car, so they'd only have to use one car for both purposes. But I don't know if that really panned out or not. There were a couple of trains that were using those very regularly. The City of New Orleans, I think, was using one pretty regularly, and I think the Capital Limited was too for quite a while. And they might still be, I don't know. Man, it looks like we can't even go in there. So anyways, this is kind of the way that we go to see what's parked on the Iowa Southern interchange with BNSF, but we can't get in there right now because they're doing some sort of work. Since it's summertime, school is not in session. This is one of the parking lots at the high school, so they're doing work on the school when the school is not in session. Now, I will sneak in here really quick just to kind of show you what's going on here. Normally all this stuff is not in here. It's just a regular parking lot. And as you can see, as we turn around here, there is a BNSF gondola back there that has steel coils in it. Those will be going to Centerville on the Iowa Southern trains. There's a scrapyard down there that takes those steel coils. Actually, they're not steel coils. They're like wire cables. They're like coils of wire that they use for something down there. So that was kind of a bust, and we missed Amtrak. So we're going to go ahead and head back towards Ottumwa and maybe see if we can get that feed train as it approaches the Cargill Spur, because they will go into Cargill that way. Might be something interesting to get on film. I've not actually seen a feed train go in right there. I think I've seen one go out, but I don't know if I've seen one go in. Well, actually, there's one more place we can look at here in Albia before we leave. I kind of forgot about until now. There is another area down here where the Iowa Southern might have some equipment staged. That is at 3rd Avenue. This is Benton Avenue, so we're getting close. That's one of the streets that crosses the Iowa Southern. Now, I'm many times coming over here, and I discovered the Iowa Southern's freight operations kind of by accident. I didn't really, believe it or not, I did not get any video of any of APNC's freight operations because I just didn't think that they operated very much. And I was down here chasing a CP train one time, and I came back through Moravia, and I saw the Iowa Southern actually working, and I'm like, oh man. And I ended up filming the train all the way back to Highway 2 down there, just right before Moulton Junction. And so then I just kept coming over here just for variety from getting trains in Ottumwa. And then I stumbled upon them again, and I just kept coming over here and just kept finding them working. And then over time, I just started learning how they operated. And the past few years, I've gotten a lot of video of the Iowa Southern up here, down Moravia, Centerville. I definitely have enough footage to make another video eventually. Well, let's see here. So we're coming up to the tracks now. Looks like they do have something out there. What is it? Oh, it's It's their switcher. Yeah, it's both of them. Both of them are down here. Fortunately, we're not really going to get a very good view of them because they're way back there, and I don't really want to take the time to get out and walk down there, but both switchers, 116 and the 1595, I think that's the number of their SW 1500, they were both down there along with some freight cars. So good news is 116 appears to be running again. For a while there, I don't think it was, but they must be running it again. So like I said, I would go back and get a picture of them for you guys, but right now we need to get some actual trains in our live stream. So we're going to head back towards Ottumwa. Now, as I was leaving Ottumwa, I saw 2 CPKC trains stop in the yard, and what we're getting right now is some kind of staticky radio chatter from the CPKC frequencies. So there might be some action on there as well. The thing is, we kind of have to make some big decisions here, because if we get the feed train going into Cargill, we may not get anything on the CPKC, and vice versa. If we get something on the CPKC, we won't get the feed train. So I don't know what is the best option. Now this is main 2 of BNSF's Ottumwa subdivision that we just crossed over. Like I say, they split in Albia. Main 1 goes through very close to downtown, but on the north side. And main 2 sweeps down around and underneath kind of a cutting on the south side of town. It pretty much avoids most of Albia proper. And main 1 goes through more of the actual town. And we missed Amtrak by just a few, like 30 seconds going through Albia. So because of that, we're going to head back towards Ottumwa. I think we're just going to head straight back to Ottumwa, because if there are some trains moving on the CPKC, I'd kind of like to see those. And with the hazy skies, there really isn't a whole lot of daylight left, not as much as you'd have without the smoky haze. So we're going to head back towards Ottumwa now. This is Highway 34. We're gonna head back east. So thank you everybody for watching the stream tonight. We're still going. We're gonna be going for a little while longer. We've been on for about 45 minutes now. And we've been checking out the trains in Albia. Train engines and cars that have been staged around Albia at the Wabtec facility, and then up on the interchange track, and then on the little sidings just south of the interchange track with Iowa Southern. And you didn't see those in the video, but both Iowa Southern locomotives were up there at the little sidings and staging area on the Iowa Southern, directly south of the interchange track. Both 116, the GP7, and their SW 1500. They're along with some covered hoppers and another gondola. And a lot of that is Centerville traffic. Plastic pellets. There are 2 plastic manufacturers in Centerville, and they get a lot of their raw materials from the railroad. And then there's a scrap yard, there's a grain elevator, and a couple of other things in Centerville that the Iowa Southern serves. And in Moravia, there is a propane transload facility, so some propane traffic goes in and out there. And then, of course, you've got the interchange with CPKC in Moravia, and you've got Wabtec up here. At Moulton Junction. So they've got a pretty good little business going on. there's quite a few active customers on the line, so they keep themselves pretty busy. Like I say, sometime we should come over here and do a live stream of just the Iowa Southern. I think that'd be pretty fun. So we're heading back to Ottumwa now. Now I was going to go up to the Cargill Spur, which there's a paved road that goes directly to it, but there were a couple of CPKC trains in Ottumwa, and there may be some other BNSF trains around too, so I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time at Cargill Spur, especially if that freight is almost there. They may be there already. So we're going to head straight back to Ottumwa and see what we can see over there. We were going to get Amtrak, and so we kind of dawdled too long at Wabtec, and we missed them by just about less than a minute in Albia. But that's okay. Now you might notice that going up and down through some of these hills, you might lose the internet at times, so just bear with me. Pretty hilly terrain through here, going up and down, and once we get closer to Ottumwa. Okay, let's scroll back through some of these. Okay, rumor has it, Iowa Train said, rumor has it NS is acquiring some CEFX AC4400 CWs, and the Central Maine and Quebec pair is included. Well, that'd be interesting. And those engines were over here, were over at Wabtec in Albia for a while. Okay, now A train way back at 7 o'clock, he said that there's a westbound Cargill feed train by agency and there's another westbound after that. So we're going to go ahead and head back to Ottumwa. That kind of seals the deal. I mean, we're going to get at least a BNSF train in Ottumwa if we... Okay, never mind. It's passing the Ottumwa. That's the one downside about going out of town, is that you miss a lot of stuff that happens in town. We are heading back east towards Ottumwa, and I'm kind of trying to figure out whether I should go back to Ottumwa or see if there's any action at the Cargill Spur. That feed train has actually gone in yet. My guess is they probably have, if there is a westbound coal train going through right now. So maybe I should just go to the Cargill Spur and get that coal train, and then we'll keep going back into town. That may be a better choice. And we are far west enough that we would definitely be able to hear any eastbound trains clearing up their warrants at Halpin from the Creston dispatcher, and we have not heard any of that yet, so there are no eastbounds right now. I forgot to bring some spare batteries for my scanner, so if the scanner happens to die, we will not have any replacement batteries, but I'm pretty sure I replaced them last time during the stream. That was the last time I really used the scanner, so I think we'll be all right. Now that we just heard was some static from the BNSF frequency. That might be the feed train. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to head up to the Cargill Spur. The turn for the Cargill Spur to get there is just right up ahead. So we're going to go ahead and go over and see if we can get anything over there. Maybe get that coal train and then head back into town. This is also the turn to Blakesburg. If you were to turn right and head south, that would take you to Blakesburg, which we went down there before on a ill-fated chase of a train. We weren't able to catch up to it. One of my earlier live streams. But this time we are heading north. And this road will eventually take you to Eddyville. And it will take you to the southern end of the Cargill Spur from Eddyville. And this road is a little bumpy. It really needs to be resurfaced eventually. And we might lose the internet off and on as we come up and down these hills as well. Some pretty steep ones. And where the Cargill Spur is, it is kind of down in a valley, so hopefully we'll still have a signal down there too. I contemplated getting Amtrak down here too, but obviously we wouldn't have had any time to get back over here. Now the Spur, the Cargill Spur, is fairly new. I mean, it's only been around for the past, 20, 25, 30 years. Originally, the line that came down to Eddyville, which still exists, was the old Chicago Northwestern, which was originally the Minneapolis and St. Louis that came down from Oskaloosa, I'm pretty sure. And this line turned at Eddyville and went down to join up with the Burlington Northern and the Norfolk Southern at Maxon and in Albia. And of course that line became Chicago Northwestern and then Union Pacific, and the line still existed to Maxon from Eddyville until, well, I'd like to say it was the early 2000s. And then that line, that portion of the line from Eddyville to Maxon was abandoned. But I'm pretty sure that the spur track, the Cargill Spur track, was already there. That connects the Cargill facility to the south with BNSF. I'm pretty sure that was already there, but I'm not sure. I do know that that spur is newer. That originally it was not there. That the Chicago Northwestern served everything in Eddyville and then brought everything down to BNSF in Maxon. And in fact, for a while, there were actually some Chicago Northwestern or Union Pacific coal trains that came down the Oskaloosa Subdivision, hooked up with the BNSF at Maxon. I don't know where those coal trains went, but there were some coal trains that used to run on the Oskaloosa Subdivision when the line to Maxon still existed. feel like I remember seeing some, so that line must have still existed in the early 2000s, but I'm not sure. And interestingly enough, some of that line has actually been rebuilt slightly to accommodate the massive amounts of rail cars that are stationed at the Cargill plant, and also Ajinomoto and some of the other major industries in Eddyville. The yard was reworked and built on the old main line of the Chicago Northwestern that was abandoned. If you look on Google Maps, you can really see that they've rebuilt a lot of that rail yard on the old grade that at one time went down to Maxon, which is the east side of Albia. Okay, we got some orange signs up here. Detour ahead. Whiskey Ridge. Okay. Now, we're not going on Whiskey Ridge Road, so Whiskey Ridge must be closed for some reason. Now, that is a road that comes out of Ottumwa. If you cross Quincy Avenue on the CPKC and you just keep going on that road, it eventually turns into Whiskey Ridge. And looky here, here's our train. So we're coming down the hill now. We are approaching the BNSF Ottumwa subdivision once again, and the feed train that we've been talking about going into the Cargill Spur is entering the spur as we speak. There they go. Hopefully we've got a good picture down here. The internet was kind of lagging. I'll pull up just a tad more. So we've got a ES44DC and we've got an SD70ACE in the middle. And we've got another, appears to be a -9 as a third unit on this train. And then we've got a short cut of Cargill tank cars. This whole train, the feed train, goes to Cargill.
Line coming in, derails in dirt. Rails in the dirt.
Alright, we're going to get this thing back on the little selfie stick here, so to hold it forever.
Like you got your drum.
So this is a great test of people's patience. And I'm guessing that some of these cars are going to eventually turn around, because with this long of a train, it might take them a while to get in here. Now, as I said, there was a shortcut of Cargill tank cars on the front of the train, which sometimes you see them on these unit feed trains. And then the rest of the train are these old hopper cars. Now these were originally, you get a better view of them there, these were originally coal cars. Most of them are old Burlington Northern cars. Some of them are other cars, or newer cars, but most of them are old Burlington Northern cars. And what they've done is they've put a canvas top on these cars to haul the feed, the sweet feed. It's called Sweet Brand, I think is the brand name that Cargill uses for their brand of sweet feed that goes down to the big cattle feedlots in Texas. They manufacture it here in Eddyville, and the loaded trains go out on BNSF's Ottumwa Subdivision. I'm pretty sure they go all the way to Galesburg, and then they go down the Brookfield Subdivision, and they get on, well, let me think here. I don't know if they actually go down the Brookfield sub or if they get on the Transcon in Galesburg. They might actually get on the Transcon in Galesburg at Cameron Junction. And then they go down to the big Texas feedlots from there. But this is an empty train. And yes, a train. I'm pretty sure that was this train that we're seeing now, whistling, as they're entering the Cargill Spur. And the spur is kind of just right up there in those trees there. The trains curve and go up kind of a little steep grade to get into the Cargill plant. Okay, Iowa Train says, this is our answer. The UP filed for abandonment of the line from Eddyville to Maxon between May and August of 2000. So that's about right. That's probably when I saw those coal trains, was in the late 90s. But like I say, I don't know why the UP would be running coal trains on that line, unless it was something that came from the Powder River Basin on BNSF and then went up to some power plant on the Oskaloosa Subdivision. I don't know why they would be handling coal trains unless, yeah, I don't know. But I remember seeing them, and I think there's pictures of them online too, of the old UP coal trains on that line. But so this is another place we need to come down and see some trains at. And actually, when this train clears, it might just stick around for the train behind it. There is that westbound coal train, which they are probably waiting right now for this train to come in. And then they'll go through. So we'll be able to see that one. And then we'll head back towards Ottumwa. So the Cargill Spur goes up to Cargill, and it interchanges with all these other big plants that are up there in the Eddyville area. And then directly north of all the yard tracks, Union Pacific's Oskaloosa Subdivision begins at a place called Bridgeport, which is on the edge of Eddyville. And the UP runs their local trains down from Marshalltown. I think they run daily. It's another line I really like to check out sometime. It's the Oskaloosa Subdivision. It really hasn't gotten a whole lot of attention over the years. So I mean, when people post pictures of trains on that line for whatever reason, so it's a line I really should investigate sometime, and maybe follow a train down from Marshalltown or something someday. And that, yeah, A-Train just said, I mean, that is a possibility that our coal train might cross over to Main 2. It's a possibility, but I guess it just depends on eastbound traffic. Most of these old cars, and these are coal porter hopper cars with the special canvas tops for hauling the sweet feed. Everybody seems to be pretty patient, which is good. Really thought there'd be some people turning around right now. About 2 or 3 cars in front of me, and there are 2 cars behind me right now. You can see in the rearview mirror there. Now, these trains are typically pretty long, probably about as long as a coal train. So, I mean, probably over 100 cars. So it's kind of slow going getting into the Cargill Spur.
Cleared the first one.
Well, we're having some pretty bad internet reception down there, so we're gonna have to go up here and turn around and go back anyway. So there's all these cars behind me. I really can't stop and whip around really fast. So we're gonna have to go all the way up here and turn around and come back. And hopefully this person isn't turning with me. Not. Good. Farewell. Whee! Alright, then we'll just go right back. This is Monroe-Wapello Road. As its name suggests, it is right on the line with Monroe and Wapello County. And hopefully we can get in a place where we don't have a lot of internet trouble down here to get our westbound coal train. So the Cargill feed train just went into Cargill, and now we're going to go down and see if we can get this westbound coal train before they show up.
One more car is 79.
Now, most likely the scenario is the westbound is probably stopped at 2888, which is just a few miles east of here, and they're not going to get the green light until the sweet feed train gets in completely into the spur, and they dial up the dispatcher and let them know that they are clear and that the switch has been changed back to mainline movements. All right, coming back down into this hole, so be prepared for there to be an internet blip. Yeah. All right. Maybe not. All right, how's everything looking there, guys? Is everything all right? Still see everything okay? Hopefully. Okay. I do know from home, I'm guessing, you know, normal cell phone company, just in-home internet that is through US Cellular, the same provider that my phone has. And it's really good internet, and it's based off of cell phone data, internet cell phone data. And once in a while, it kind of, you know, go down for a minute and come right back up. So what regular cell phone signal does too. Just depends on the weather situation, you know. So we're going to go ahead and get the tripod rigged up here, and hopefully. And here we have somebody zooming down the road coming towards us on a four-wheeler. And we get to see that while we wait. That's very exciting, but... Okay. And they were slowing down very cautiously going over the railroad tracks behind us, so good for them. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get our camera on the tripod here. All right. Okie dokie, now we just have to wait for all the cars to finish going by. And we got one more down here, and then we'll get out. This road is very busy, so you really have to be careful getting out down here. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
7902, are we switching to 70? No, yes, I got to get over the dispatcher once you let me know you got everything lined and locked. Roger that.
Now, as we can see,
the main line with dispatcher?
we're going to go ahead and zoom up there. There's the train that we just saw.
Yeah, they just, I guess you didn't hear them, but yeah, I just told them that the main line was locked back up. Tell the dispatcher that? Yep. All right, go ahead and get that 0 locked and meet me down here. Roger that.
Okay. So there was that train. All right, sorry about that, guys. We're gonna go ahead and cross. The signals are green.
Mainline is backlocked and other switches backlocked, so we are good to go.
The signal is green for eastbound trains, but this...
902, both switches are locked back. I'm about to meet you down there.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that anything is coming, because these are intermediate signals. So they pretty much just display what the actual controlled signals down the line display. So it says green, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a train is actually lined. Is my understanding anyways. But this is a segment of CTC, so I really don't know. Well, sorry guys, we're really having some internet issues down here. But now that the little buggy has cleared, I'm gonna walk down here. Maybe we can get into a spot where we have a decent signal. Okay, and this view really isn't the greatest, but we got some. Okay, so I'm just trying to find a place where I can get a decent signal consistently. I don't know where that would be. Maybe right here. Every time I stop to maybe see about... Where I was earlier was pretty decent for an extended period of time. So maybe we should go back down there. But the other train is there, so... Go ahead and cross back over real quick. Quick adjustments here while I get the tripod up. Sorry about that. Get it leveled out. All right. Hopefully we get a decent signal here, because I don't really want to keep moving. How's it look for everybody? Seems to look good on my end, but sometimes when I'm having internet lagginess, the picture will be a little grainy, but in this situation, there's not really a whole lot we can do about that. Yeah, Kirk says a little blurry, but streaming's good, so hey, that's better than nothing, so it's probably what we'll have to take here for future reference. And I figured that this would probably be kind of a hole where we wouldn't really get a decent, really crisp signal, but you know, it is what it is. Now earlier, okay, A-Train says another westbound is passing agency now. Now whether we will get back to Ottumwa in time to see that train or not, it's debatable. The unfortunate thing about this particular portion of BNSF's Ottumwa subdivision is that a good portion of it is really pretty inaccessible. Between Ottumwa and here, there really aren't very many places to get trains. And even the bridge over the Des Moines River, which is a few miles out of Ottumwa, is in a place where you really can't get to it by road. I mean, you can get close, but not really close to it without doing a little hiking, which I don't really like to do because it's, you know, trespassing and sometimes it can be kind of dangerous. So, now, so far so good. We really haven't had any blips since I set up here. So, speaking of, here it comes. Now I'm just going to keep the camera right here when it comes by. SD70 ACE on the front and AC 4400 CW on the back. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, my instinct tells me we need to hightail it back towards Ottumwa. But if there is a train... Yeah, it almost sounds like a northbound CPKC train is leaving Ottumwa right now. Although they might have already left. I know that there was a KCS engine on the front of that train, the one that I saw earlier. But hey, we got 2 trains so far. That's pretty good. Plus all the stuff in Relco, Wabtec, excuse me. So we're doing all right. We're gonna head back to Ottumwa now. Now I don't know that There was a westbound train going through agency several minutes ago. Let's talk about the local earlier. Well, all right. Whoa, back in we go. It's all blurry, says Robert. Well, we're gonna try. We gotta get out of this hole. Once we get out of this hole, the picture will be better, so just bear with, folks. Here we go. All right. Make sure we've got some juice here. There we go. And like I said, this road is pretty busy, so off we go. And once we get out of this valley, it should be. Okay, we're back. It's going to take a while for the internet to stabilize, or going up and down these hills. Yes, I did. Railfan 1995. Yes, I did get that comment. I remember now that you brought that up, that I remember reading that that's what they're going to do with that engine. So thanks for jogging my memory. That'll be interesting to see that engine in the old pre-merger scheme. Or actually what it would have looked like if the merger had actually gone through with Santa Fe and Southern Pacific. My memory serves me correctly. Of course, for those that don't know, there was, back in the 70s, I think, Santa Fe and Southern Pacific tried to merge, and they got pretty close to it happening. They were, getting ready to make it happen, and they were starting to repaint engines in preparation for the merger to go through, but wasn't approved. I think back then it was still the Interstate Commerce Commission. They did not approve the merger, and so they had engines painted in the new paint scheme, which is kind of a combination of Santa Fe war bonnet styling with Southern Pacific's red and kind of a yellow front. But since the merger wasn't approved, they couldn't put SPSF reporting marks on any of the engines. So they had to either do SF for Santa Fe owned engines or SP for Southern Pacific engines. And then the idea was, when the merger was approved, that they would go back and fill in the other two letters, whichever ones were missing. And that would be their new paint scheme. I think originally there was only like one engine and one caboose that were painted in the full SPSF paint scheme for promotional purposes. And all the others were either SP or SF. And of course, as we know, the merger did not go through. And rail fans kind of joked that the SPSF acronym did not stand for Southern Pacific Santa Fe. Instead, it stood for Shouldn't Paint So Fast. And another nickname that rail fans gave that paint scheme was Kodachrome. It was similar colors and styling of the Kodak Kodachrome film, which was a favorite for a lot of rail fan photographers back in the day. It's a really interesting paint scheme, and a lot of it survived into the late 90s on some BNSF engines. Well, A-Train says that the coal train is passing the Ottumwa camera now, so I knew I should have gone back the other way. We could have got it at Chillicothe, but going this way, there's no way we can get back there now, most likely. So we're just going to keep on going back to Ottumwa. Maybe we'll see something going on in the CPKC. We'll see. Getting a little late, so see what else we can see as we head back to Ottumwa. But it's been kind of a different stream today. We've got some stuff over in Albia, missed Amtrak by a few minutes. We got a sweet feed train and then a coal train here at the Cargill Spur. So it has not been a failed stream. We've seen essentially, okay, somebody reported that, yes, I think Iowa Trains, I think he said that train 260 was coming. So we'll see about that. I do know that the dispatcher was talking about, he was talking to a northbound train. That might have been 261. So I don't know if I forgot telling you, telling you guys, when I was leaving town, heading to Albia, I saw two CPKC trains. One of them was an oil train, it looked like, and it was already in the yard, a northbound train. And then there was another train on the edge of the yard limits, parked right there by the milepost 305 grade crossing that we've seen trains from before. And that looked like train 261. And it had Kansas City Southern engines on the front of it. And I think that's what the dispatcher was just talking to a few minutes ago. Now we are back to, okay, A-Train says, I heard that the dispatcher's talking to 260 about coordinating with the local in the yard. Okay. There's a semi here parked, so I can't really see oncoming vehicles. Yeah, we're good. So it sounds like train 260, if they're already in the yard, I don't know. I don't know if they've gotten into the yard yet or not, but then there's that northbound train that I was talking about, so I don't know if they came into the yard. Well, wait a minute. I think I might know what's going on. See, this is how it is. You start putting puzzle pieces together and kind of putting together a picture of what you think might be happening. The dispatcher was talking to that train, that northbound train with the Kansas City Southern engines, and they were confirming a track warrant. Now, the track warrants don't end until the train actually gets into the yard, and that train was not in the yard yet, so it's possible that that train is beginning its movement into the yard right now. And if that's the case, they will be clear of any southbound trains. So if 260 is approaching, you might be able to see it. But it is getting late, so we're not going to go a whole lot longer. But we'll see what we can see in the meantime. Obviously, we're not going to see that BNSF coal train because it's already gotten through Ottumwa. Now, like I was saying before that coal train came through that we just saw, it's really pretty difficult to follow the BNSF Ottumwa subdivision west of Ottumwa between Ottumwa and Albia. There just really aren't very many accessible locations. There aren't very many roads that, not very many big roads that you can get to the tracks from. Because for a while, the railroad goes along the river, and then it crosses the river, and then it goes through Chillicothe, which there's a crossing at Chillicothe, but then there really isn't much until the crossing where we were by the Cargill Spur. And then there's a few more gravel road crossings, and then the tracks go through Avery. And west of Avery, it's a little easier. to follow the line into Albia and further west. But from Ottumwa to Albia, it's quite a challenge to really follow the railroad. It kind of curves up and around. It's a little more difficult to follow the line. But obviously, west of Albia, east of Ottumwa, it's very easy. Especially east of Ottumwa, you can pretty much follow the railroad all the way to almost to Galesburg. So we're about, I'd like to say maybe 10 minutes or so out of Ottumwa. It is getting late, so we'll probably just make anything in the area, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. But we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Now this road to the right takes us down to the CPKC. It's 215th Avenue. I've got many shots of trains from that crossing. Alright, so it sounded like, from what I could hear radio just then, it sounded like that westbound coal train just cleared Ottumwa. So we could have gone back up through Chillicothe and gotten them there, but it still would have been a little while before they got by. So down here, this seems to be the traditional spot on Highway 34 where the internet goes down. So bear with me as we go through here. Okay. A-Train says the 260's outbound crew was on duty at 8:20. And so we're 7 minutes past that now. So if 261 is already in the yard and they have cleared, maybe we'll get to see them leave, but we will see. That would actually be a pretty convenient location to get a train on our way into town, because that's literally right where we come back into town. It's right there at the yard, so we'll see. So I hope you guys have had a good past 3 weeks. Like I said before I started the stream, this is the first live stream I've done in almost 3 weeks. Been busy with a lot of things. Of course, summer's getting kicked off, so really busy more at home with the family. And video-wise, I've been working on my Union Pacific video, which is coming along very nicely. I have almost all the narration recorded. For the Union Pacific video that I'm working on. The next step after that will be starting to actually edit the video. That was the CPKC talking, I think, about 260, or one of the crews on the trains. We'll see what's going on. We're about there now, so we'll be able to see what's going on. But yeah, like I said, I'll be starting to edit the CPKC, or excuse me, Union Pacific train video that I've been working on here pretty soon. And I've actually started some of the very early preliminary work on the Iowa Interstate video too. Going through some of that video, starting to take some screenshots from that I'll use for the video thumbnails and other things. So I'm kind of working on both of them at the same time here. And as we can see, which this is actually good, we might actually be able to get this train instead of 260. 261, which I saw earlier, is still stopped here. And it appears that they're stopped in the same place they were before. So I might just go ahead and get this train coming into the yard if they're going to head into the yard. Obviously, they'll have to come in before 260 does. They're still sitting here, so. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of odd that they're just sitting here, but. Pull up a little ways here so people who are turning don't turn right into me. All right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll give it like 10 minutes or so. If this train doesn't move by then, we will go ahead and kind of hear the engine there as we're sitting here. And I might go ahead and turn the yeah, I would agree, A-Train. I think if 260 has an outbound crew, this one does. I think the thing is, this train just hasn't been able to get into the yard yet. But obviously, 260 can't go south until this train gets into the yard. So, and we'll kind of turn the camera here so you guys can see this train sitting here. There it is. It's got Kansas City Southern engines on it. At least on the front, anyways. It's actually a pretty good scene right there. It'd be really nice if this train were to pull, and we wouldn't even have to get out of the car. We could just film it right here. Now, Kirk, this is train 261. This is the northbound counterpart to train 260. And it's been sitting here for quite a while. It was sitting here when I was heading over to Albia initially, so. I hope that they go ahead and go on into the yard. So earlier, I heard the CPKC dispatcher addressing a train, and I'm pretty sure it was this train, about how the track warrant was good and valid, which usually when they confirm a warrant like that, it means they're confirming it after they've been sitting for a long time, or they get a new crew, or something like that. And obviously, they would have to confirm their warrant because they're still on their track warrant because they're not in the yard yet. So even though the yard limit literally starts right on the other side of this crossing out of view, they still have to confirm that their warrant is good and valid before they can proceed. So I'm guessing that that means that they're about ready to leave, but that was a while ago. Well, that was, a good 10, 15 minutes ago, I think, when I heard that. So whatever they're waiting on, I really hope they end up leaving. We'll give them another 10 minutes or so, and we'll go from there. But if for some reason, of course, this is usually what happens. They say, well, give them 10 minutes and then we'll leave. Then you leave, and then that's when they start moving. If that happens, we can get them on down the line at the crossing right across from Rocket Fuels. But obviously, if they don't move, then we won't see them. But we'll see. We're in a good position to get them when and if they move. And it's nice to be around the Ottumwa area where you don't have to worry about your internet going up and down. There's really only a few spots in Ottumwa where you have a weak signal to do live streams. Right behind some of the downtown buildings, and then right around Rutledge Hill in that area. There's kind of an iffy signal, but other than that, you can get a pretty decent signal all the way around. So. But it's understandable to have internet issues when you're going up and down, really big hills and things like that. Because the signal just can't get down into those valleys as well as it can across, flat land. Which makes sense. So this train we're looking at right now is CPKC train 261. And they've been sitting here for quite a while. They were sitting here when I left to go to Albia initially. So that was, almost 2 hours ago. And I assumed that the reason that they were sitting here is because there was an oil train in the yard. And they were waiting for that train to leave before they came in. But, I mean, did that train leave and 260 is now down in there? Or is there no other way for this train to get into the yard? I mean, I don't know. Now, the CPKC yard really isn't that big. I mean, it's a decently sized yard lengthwise, but there aren't a whole lot of sidings. There's the main track, and then I like to say there are a couple other tracks that full trains could pull in on. And then there's maybe, 3 or 4 more yard tracks after that. And then there are a couple other tracks going to, there's like a gravel pit. And then there used to be a track that went way up and down. I think they removed that track. And I think they referred to that years ago as the back way. Sometimes they would actually run trains through back there. I think they took that track out. And there are a few other little sidings that serve Questliner, which is a tanker truck. Okay. We got somebody toning up. That's one thing about filming inside the car. You don't have to worry about gravel dust. I'll roll the window up momentarily here. And years ago, the Milwaukee Road, which they were the original owners of this track, they had a big, back in the days of steam, they had a big roundhouse and a turntable. And if you look on Google Maps, you can actually still see the concrete surrounding where the roundhouse used to be, and even where some of the old tracks and the pits used to be for the steam engines. And one of the tracks that goes to Questliner still kind of meanders out that way towards where the roundhouse used to be. But obviously, trains don't go way out there anymore.
Fox 2, TWOC from CPKC Rutledge to south at the UT, starting switch landing on main track. Fox 10, 10, clear main track and left, 8 point. Fox 21, 21, permission to leave following switch deep, reverse to south at the UT. Transport 50, 26, 3, check 2, 10, 21, SJR, over. Back on track or 5026, 5026, July 15, 15, 2023, 2023 to the CB 8043, 8043, north, NORTH at Ottumwa. Checkbox 2, DWO, proceed from CPKC Rutledge to south at the UTH, siding switch Limpy on main track. Checkbox 10, 10, clear main track to last main point. And checkbox 21, 21, permission to leave the following switch and reverse suspension south at the UTH, siding switch Limpy. Track horn 5026. Green line, check line number 2, 10, and 21, over. 26, 3, check 2, 10, 21, OK, that's 2041, 2041, NJ. Track horn 5026, green line, check line number 2, 10, 21, OK, that's 2041, 2041, MJR, copy by Tillis, over. Tillis, that's correct. All correct, thank you very much, over.
Okay, so here's what I took from that conversation. I am guessing, I thought I heard...
He's too happy to be here.
I thought I heard them address that train as a 570 something or other, the one that just got their warrant to head north. I think that 500s are oil trains, so that would be the oil train getting their warrant to head north. So my guess is when they start heading out of town, our train here will start creeping into the yard. Once there's, you know, confirmation that that train is moving and they're getting out of town, then they will start bringing this train in at restricted speed, obviously, because they're literally following another train. But I think they should be able to head right in as that other train is leaving, which means hopefully we should be able to see this train as it leaves. So my guess is 260 is already in the yard and clear. Hopefully. But they just got their warrant. So the other train that the dispatcher was talking to earlier that was confirming their warrant that they already had, it had to have been this train. So they're ready to go when that oil train gets out of their way. So, and since it's yard limits, all the trains are going to be running at restricted speed and yard limits, you know, prepared to come up on another train. So it is theoretically possible that this train could start moving as soon as that oil train starts to move and starts to get out of the yard. Because obviously by the time the oil train gets moving and clears, this train will be heading into the yard and have a clear track. And obviously they're not going to go past the yard because they don't have another crew to go past the yard. They'll have to get a new crew. And now they're talking to the local, it sounds like. Okay, well, I think that's the local. I'm not sure, but I think he said K82, so... Man, I hope this train goes. It's getting late. I'll give her another 5 minutes or so. But I haven't heard that the oil train's actually moving yet, so... Obviously, they can't get into the yard until that train gets in, so... That train starts pulling out. Well, they were just talking... Okay, well, it sounds like... Okay, our train is about ready to pull. Now, I don't know if the local is on this train to bring it into the yard or what the deal is, but regardless, this train is departing. So we'll be able to see it. Yes, indeed, off they go. We've got an SD70 AC on the front of this train, and we got a Tier 4 locomotive, second unit, both Kansas City Southern. So I don't really know what was going on. It almost sounded like to me that the local, because I don't know, but it almost sounded like the local crew was running this train into the yard and they're tying it down. But I don't know what that other train was that we heard get a warrant at Linby that's meeting the oil train. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. This to me looks like train 261. So it could be that they couldn't get into the yard and the locals just bringing this thing into the yard. But regardless, we got this train. So good way to end the stream. This will definitely be our last train of the night because it's almost 9 o'clock. We've been on for over 2 hours. But we got 3 trains as well as some stuff around Wabtec and Albia. So it's been a pretty good stream. Now, just as I thought, this train is coming in right behind the oil train. Since they're going into yard limits, multiple trains can be occupying the tracks at the same time, but they all run at restricted speed, which means that they can only go as fast as being able to stop within half of the line of sight. So they have to go no faster than that. They have to be able to stop within half of their line of sight, which it could be any specified slow speed, but I think on average it's usually somewhere around like 15 miles an hour. There's a lot of interference on the CPKC frequency tonight. First, I thought it was somebody talking over him, but I think it's just, interference. So apparently it's been a really busy night on the CPKC. This is the first time I've ever seen a train going into the yard stopped and parked out this far. Interesting old 4-bay hopper cars here. Almost look like old coal cars. Not sure I've ever seen those on a... There's a pretty interesting little 3-bay hopper there. That almost looks like a short, ballast hopper. And several more of these old hopper cars. Yeah, I wonder what the reporting mark used to be. These are their FURX reporting marks now. The one underneath, something and E. I wonder if these were old IC and E cars. Oh, here we got some interesting little trinkets. Some of those old Canadian Pacific rapid discharge ballast hoppers. The old multi-mark logo, which I think was one of the best CP paint schemes. Yeah, they're coming to a stop now. Now, it could be they're lining the switches into the yard. And I can hear that it sounds like there is a mid-train DPU on this train. I can hear it. Yeah, we're really running out of light, so this train better get itself in the yard here before long. Whereas it won't take them very long because they can't block crossings for an extended period. Well, the oil train. Yeah, that's what it was. Yep, they had to stop the train to line the switch at the south end of the yard. And the oil train sure is making good time. It sounded like they were just calling out the mile board for Rutledge, so they're already almost at the top of Rutledge Hill. Which means, most assuredly, that the yard track that this train is going in is completely clear for their movement heading into the yard. And we just heard that this is indeed train 261. So anyways, those old CP cars there with the multi-mark logo, or Pac-Man logo, I think is what they call it. Well, it's a nickname for it because it does look like Pac-Man. That was one of the best CP rail Canadian Pacific paint schemes, in my opinion. Of course, CP rail as we know it is no longer here. It's now CPKC, Canadian Pacific Kansas City. And that railroad is still very young. It's only existed for about 3 months now. Okay, here comes our mid-train, I assume it's our mid-train DPU. It is a Canadian Pacific Evolution locomotive. And as it goes by, since it's really late, or it's getting late and dark out, you can really see how the ground lights work on these locomotives. Now, some of you might be asking the question, what are ground lights on trains? What are they for? Well, it's kind of interesting, which I didn't really know this until I got an O-scale model of an engine that has working ground lights on it. But the ground lights are so engine crews and the conductors that are working on the trains at night Maybe they're switching cars or walking along the engine, or maybe riding on the edge of the engine, switching cars for whatever reason. You really don't think about it, but at night, it can be really hard to see along the ground whether you're actually moving or not. And that's what the ground lights are for. They're meant to illuminate the side of the ground along the locomotives so that the crew can actually see when the train starts moving and when it stops. Because at night, it can be very hard to tell when you're looking down at the ground whether the train is moving or not, or how fast it's moving. So it helps them stay safe when they're on the end of the train on locomotives and shoving moves and switching cars and stuff. I thought that was really interesting. I did not know that about the ground lights until I got an O-scale locomotive that has them on it. And for those curious wondering what that engine is, it's a Lionel BNSF SD70 ACE that has working ground lights, just like the real thing. And on the Lionel model, they actually are set to turn off once the train has reached a certain speed. I don't know if that really happens on actual diesel locomotives. It usually seems to me like when the train's running, they're always on at night, but it could be wrong. So the train's really picking up speed now that we know that that oil train has cleared the yard. And they're also on the big straightaway going into the yard, so they can see a long ways to be able to stop in time if there was something in their way. So pretty much this thing's got a clear track into the yard the rest of the way. Now we are almost out of light, and this one nice thing about summer is that the sun stays out longer. If this was wintertime, it would have been dark a long time ago. Yeah, some guy behind me on a Jeep that was attempting to come this way, and he saw the train. He's like, nope. Okay, Kirk's asking what 577 has for power. All I heard was the lead engine. It's pretty sure it's an AC 4400 CWM. There's a lot of really old riprap hopper cars on this train. It's kind of neat to see. We got a car coming up alongside us here, so we're gonna go ahead and turn on the car so he doesn't think I'm stranded or something. And we'll go ahead and turn on the lights so you can kind of see the train a little better. And we'll go ahead and just turn off our radio since this will be the last train we see for the day. And while we're sitting here, we're gonna go ahead and kind of turn the camera back sideways. We're pointing straight ahead now as this train heads into the yard. Lots of auto racks on the back of these trains, typically. And this guy's being courteous. He's staying back there so I can go ahead and get out of here once the train leaves. And there it is. There's the end. That's it. That's a pretty nice way to end the stream. Train 260 heading into the yard. All right, so we're gonna end the stream here pretty quickly. It is 9 o'clock, so been out for quite a while tonight, seeing trains. Oh, camera down a little bit. There we go. So a quick preview of my upcoming projects that I have working on. Working on the Union Pacific video, which features the big boy from 2019 and some trains from the past several years before that. And I'm very close to starting actually editing the video. I'm working on the narration now, recording it. I almost have it done. When I get it done, then I'll start actually editing the video. And that process probably won't take very long, maybe a couple weeks. So I'm hoping, I'm still hoping to get that video up by the end of the month. And then the next video will be Iowa Interstate's QJs, QJ 6988, and some freight trains, and then the UP's donation special from last year. That'll be the next video. And I'm already starting to do some preliminary work on that video, getting some screenshots taken, edited, going through some of the video, and organizing it. So those will be the next 2 video projects, big videos that I have coming your way. And I got a few smaller videos I might put up too before then. But then after that, after those 2 video projects, it'll be Old Thresher's time. And so that'll be the next video that you guys probably will see. And there is train 260. Stopped right here at this crossing. So is this guy like is this truck active or something? I mean, he doesn't even have his lights on. Hopefully there's somebody in there. So with that, those are my next projects that are coming up. Obviously, after that, it'll be Old Thresher's time, so that'll be the next video you see, most likely. And then I have a few other projects after that, but those are still, you know, quite a ways away. So I got a pretty active few months coming up here. Yep, we got 261s moving into the yard. This is the train we just saw. We just caught up to it here. This is the crossing across the tracks is Rocket Fuels, place we stopped at before in one of the previous streams. So with that, once this train clears, it will be the end of our live stream tonight. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. And like I say, we'll keep it rolling here until the train clears and we get going. Looks like the crew of 260 is on the other side of the tracks, kind of doing a visual inspection on 261 as it comes into the yard. Speaking of which, here's the second to last car going by now. Then we've got a covered hopper on the end of the train here after the auto racks. And I really hope this truck in front of me is actually going to move. He doesn't even have his lights on. And there's the end of the train. You might see the crew with their lights down there, giving the train a good roll by. Yeah, his truck isn't even on. There we go. Okay, now these people are supposed to stop, so I hope they stay there. Okay. Yep, that was train 260's crew along the tracks there, giving them a roll by. And they don't even have a warrant yet that I'm aware of. It's a CP engine on the front, and there's a Kansas City Southern engine behind it. That's going to be the norm for quite a while. You're going to see a mixture of those engines on the trains until the actual CPKC painted engines come out. With that, we're heading home. It's dark, it's late. We got a pretty good set of trains this evening, and I'd like to thank you guys for joining in on the live stream tonight. So we're going to go ahead and end the stream here. So thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. I won't wait another 3 weeks for taking another live stream, hopefully. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. So long.